little while since we had a little chat, hasn't it? So, oh, get myself comfortable. There we go. I'm here at the New Forest Airfields War Memorial, which is really quite a fascinating place, actually. Highly recommend you pop down and have a look if you're in the area. What I want to talk about is that thing just behind us there, and our sports bike's dead. There's lots of information around about sports bike sales are pretty much non-existent now. The R1 seems to be on its way out, certainly in its current guise. The GSX R1000 is back, but to be honest, I think it's just exactly the same as the last model, just with the necessary updates to get it through Euro. As I understand, it's still available in other markets anyway. Rumours about the new Ducati V4 being the quote-unquote last proper sports bike. That's a really interesting point. I do think that sports bike sales now just simply aren't there, and why I think that is, and if you're the same sort of age as me, so I'm 45, most of us grew up, late 80s, early 90s, and hankered after things like ZXRs, GSXRs, the early blades, YZFs, all those sorts of things, and it was really the absolute peak for sports bikes. Mainly it was world superbikes, mainly it was endurance racing, where the ZXR lineage came from, really. And that's when sports bike sales absolutely topped the market out, and because the GS, although it existed, certainly not as we'd understand it today. And people in my age group always have loved sports bike. I love sports bikes, even though I've got an Africa Twin and a few other bits in the garage. I've just put in a cut of my ZXR 750H2. Which is under a pretty comprehensive rebuild. I have had one before, I used to race it. Oh, excuse me. Why are sports bikes dying? Well, I've ridden all the new stuff, S1000 RRs, blades, R1s, all of that sort of stuff, and the reason why I think that people find them unsatisfactory when you jump on something with 200 plus horsepower is that they're sanitized. Normally most of these bikes have got a fuel map in each gear where it effectively reduces the power and makes it feel, because it is less power than it actually says. When you jump on something like this blade here, it's 150 horsepower, somewhere around there, perhaps slightly more than MotoGP exhaust. You get 150 horsepower on effectively a one-to-one throttle, because for all intents and purposes there is no mapping, and it's a direct cable to the butterflies. So that feels more powerful because you get what you ask for. In very much those sort of terms, people that come from my sort of generation, the difference between slide and CV carbs. Slide carbs give you what you ask for, CV carbs give you what you need. And that's a fair comparison between modern injector bikes, where you've got various maps and things. These older generation bikes like herself behind us, they give you what you ask for. If you turn the throttle all the way, you're going to get full power. Which is why I think these early, we'll call them the Gen 1000s, feel the way they do. And rather disappointingly, I do agree from a sort of management financial point of view, sports bikes don't make any sense anymore. To get them to market, you're realistically looking at mid-20s to high 20s. Certainly things like the new Ducati V4, realistically it's going to be heading towards 30 if you want the S model. The base models I think are going to normally end up as track bikes, because although the electronic suspension is very good, most people when they race bikes put the so-called manual suspension back on. So when they come track bike sort of spec, most people go for the base bike because it's cheaper. It's normally the road sort of users that go for the electronic suspension versions, or nothing wrong with it at all, or people that want those in their garage to be their garage queens and bring it on a sunny Sunday, which is fine. I would do the same. Sports bikes on the road are fundamentally not a lot of use. That 20-year-old blade behind you, she'll do well over 70 in first, apparently. And you could ride around at some fairly respectable pace if you were a better rider than me, never needing more than third gear. They're too fast for the road, let's be honest. They have been for 25, 30 years. They look fantastic. They look incredible. And that, I think, is a big appeal of any bike, let alone just sports bikes, is the way they look. They're uncomfortable. I'm 6'1". Weight's coming down quite quickly now. Just over 14 stone now. I fit that blade perfectly. I'm a Honda shape, although everyone is a Honda shape, everyone fits. I can ride this thing for as long as the fuel tank lasts in reasonable comfort. But you have to come from a sports bike background to have that almost body makeup. If you've come from a modern background of sit-up bikes, naked bikes, super nakeds, sports bikes don't feel comfortable because your muscles, quite frankly, are just different. When you come from my age group, you grew up on GSXRs, ZXRs and blades and things, and it's a normal position for you. You'll find them comfortable, but when you come to that age, you want different things. You want the ability to take your partner on the back, you want to take luggage, you want to be comfortable, you want cruise control, you want all these fantastic things that my Africa Twin's got, or any big adventure bike's got, and people just aren't buying these. And I think there's such a shame, and what I think we're going to see is sports bikes becoming a second bike. So your main bike, or your A bike as I call it, would be something really sensible like an Africa Twin, GS, those type of things, which you use for, keeping the other half happy and going away for weekends together and picking dog biscuits up and whatever else. And I think that sports bikes will become a B bike, if you want to call it that. So something that's in your garage to polish, 360 days of the year, and a couple of weekends you bring it out for a bit of fun. And they'll become an enthusiast's ownership, which means that you're into the realms of people having enough money for two bikes. So my take on the market, I've been messing around with bikes for too long. I think what we'll see is that sales of bikes from 2005, 2010, perhaps as 2015, that kind of era, I think that people will add one of those to their collection as a B bike, and the value in used bikes will pick up because of that reason. You can't justify and don't need to spend £25,000 on a brand new sports bike, but you still like the whole sports bike thing. So I think people will start to lean towards things like herself behind us to have in their garage for those reasons. And this attitude that people can maximise their sports bike on the road, I think anyone of any experience would say that's just simply not the case. If you are maximising any modern sports bike on the road, then get off the road. You should not be on the road. We all have a little bit of fun. I'm not going to pretend I don't, get the throttle open and certainly enjoy the upper end of the revs. Of course I do, but it's in context. The ability of even that, other than the MotoGP replica exhaust, is completely standard, far outstrips nearly all riders. There's a very small percentile that can push these things hard, and certainly not on the road to any sort of reasonable safety. And they are fundamentally a useless thing, so as long as you accept that they're an enthusiast machine, in very much the same way as people would spend X millions on a painting or a top spec PC, for example, when you just use it for emails and internet. if you want that option, the option is there for you, and that should be celebrated. I think that the market now just dictates that sports bikes are on the way out, unless you do what Yamaha do, and you release a non-road legal version. I think that's entirely sensible from Yamaha. So I think they're the first of many. So sort of bringing this video to a sort of conclusion, I suppose. I think that, you know, my kids, our kids, perhaps people that sort of age group, sports bikes will become a really rare sight on the road. I get the reasons why. I don't disagree with any of them. They will become an enthusiast and collector thing for those that have the money and those that come from our generation. I get why people these days that are new to the world of biking wouldn't necessarily buy into the whole sports bike thing. They are expensive. What are your thoughts on this? You know, most of us that watch this channel and other bike channels are vaguely the same sort of age group, I suppose, certainly according to my stats. What are your thoughts? Do you think that sports bikes have had their day? Do you think they'll become exactly as I think they will, a B-bike option? Or do you think they're here to stay? Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to get out and enjoy the sun a bit more. I'll show you a bit more photography around this wonderful thing that's maintained by volunteers, and quite a few rides set off from here, and I found it purely by accident, to be honest, but that's my thoughts anyway. Put any comments down there, let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll catch up again soon. Take it easy.